How is the 15 mm of grass going to behave? Will the pitch be assisting the Australian seamers? Will the Indian batsmen be able to play the lethal Australian bowling, as was a question put to us by a viewer at our pre-show? Well, those questions have been answered somewhat in the 2 hours of play that we've seen in Melbourne so far. That's the scorecard for you. India 57 for 1. Mayank Agarwal on debut 34 not out, giving him company there. Cheteshwar Pujara. Pat Cummins has looked the most dangerous of the Australian bowlers so far. Brad Hodge, VVS Laxman joining us. Is it just me, or do you think the pitch, which looked very easy to bat on, has kind of become slightly difficult in that last start?
No, I think it's a very flat wicket and it's a very slow wicket, and this is kind of wicket where the batsmen have to show a lot of patience, and so do the bowlers. It's a test of patience, and I think the way the bowlers approach is you have fielders at short covers, at short mid wicket, because driving will be a problem on this wicket. You can't hit through the line because the ball will not come onto the bat. Not many catches will go in the slip cordon. As far as the batsman is concerned, if they decide that they're not going to get out and they try to occupy the crease, it's a perfect wicket to play a long innings.
Okay, Brad, you thought there'd be some juice there for the fast bowlers before a ball was bowled at the MCG. What do you make of it now?
Well, no juice at all, was it? It's a pretty flat wicket, and it looks a pretty docile wicket. The grass coverage hasn't really had too much of an effect, and it looks good for batting. It's going to be, as VVS said, it's just a patience game with bat and ball, and I think scoreboard pressure. Time will tell whether that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Australians batting last on this wicket.
All right, that'd be interesting to see, because up until now everyone was of the opinion that batting last will not be a problem here, but it doesn't seem like that, whatever little we've seen of the pitch at MCG so far. Okay, let's talk about the Indian openers. That was our topic of discussion before a single ball was bowled. What did you make of? Let's start with Hodge Vihari. He got out, not getting too many runs, but then was spending a lot of time on the wicket. What did you make of him?
Fantastic. Both Hodge Vihari and Mayank Agarwal. The way they batted, the body language, the composure they showed was exemplary. For both of them who were young in their test career, Mayank Agarwal playing his first test match, Hodge Vihari playing his third test match. The way they're coming behind the line of the ball, they were getting into good position, looking for the full ball. I think it was really good to see, because it's not only about the nature of the wicket, but also keeping in mind the three quality fast bowlers which they're facing for the first time in case of Mayank Agarwal and in case of Hodge Vihari for the second time in this series. I think the body language was very good to see.
Okay, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube or Facebook, do send in your questions. I'll try to put those questions to VVS and Brad. Brad, I'm talking about Hodge Vihari now. VVS just mentioned that he looked good in the time that he spent on the crease. Just two deliveries there where he looked uncomfortable, one that got him on the helmet and the one that got him out. Was there an issue there, how he was dealing with the short pitch ball?
Well, if you're getting hit on the head, I guess so. I think he just took his eye off the ball. Look, and that can happen when you see someone bowling the speeds of 145 kilometres an hour in Patrick Cummins. You can certainly get caught off guard. I thought he played particularly well. I think Captain Virat Kohli will be very happy at lunchtime with only one wicket down. So as openers, they've done their roles. They've shielded that new ball for the middle order. Unfortunately, just probably could have ticked over a few more runs, a little bit for himself, for his personal pride. But all in all, it was a really good job. But it looks like he might get tested with the short ball for a few tests to come if he takes that opening spot.
All right. Of course, the Australian bowlers will be keeping a close eye on those two deliveries, one that got him on the helmet. Let's take a closer look at how Hodge Vihari and Mayank Agarwal approached their particular innings. A different approach by the two batsmen. These are the balls that were left alone, pretty much similar there. Defense, Mayank Agarwal got those many runs, but defense there for him is more, which may be surprising. But then he also played more shots as compared to Vihari, and that's why there was such a contrast as far as runs scored. I'm going to talk about Mayank Agarwal. He looked exciting, but I'm still staying with Hodge Vihari. Do you think the approach that we saw from him here was purely down to the fact that he was opening and that is why circumspect, or was it away from his natural game, which otherwise if he was batting in the middle order, you would expect him to play a few shots?
No, but if you see that graphic, he drove a lot. But the problem for Hanuma
going to the
Vihari was
fielder.
it was going straight to the fielders. There were some beautiful on drive, off drive. 39% of the shots were driven. Unlike Mayank Agarwal, where he defended a lot more than Vihari. But the shots which Vihari were middling was going straight to the fielder. So it's nothing to do with opening or batting in the middle order. It's just that he was not finding the gap like the way Mayank Agarwal was finding. Having said that, I think from Vihari's point of view, he was just looking to occupy the crease. He was just looking to make the new ball soft, and as the innings progressed, he was probably looking to flourish. So unfortunately, he got out in a fashion which I'm sure that the Australians or other bowlers will note. And on this wicket, it's going to be tough facing the short pitch deliveries. It's going to be tough work even for the bowlers, because when you're bowling short pitch deliveries on this wicket, you have to put in a lot of effort. But the toughest ball to face for a batsman on this kind of wicket is the short pitch deliveries, because
Why?
because it's almost like a subcontinental kind of wicket where you don't know the kind of bounce the bowler will get. Typical Australian wicket from the length, like the mistake which Vihari did, is pick up the length from where in Australia you can leave the bouncer, but on this wicket you will not expect the same kind of bounce, probably what you get on a wicket like in Perth or maybe even in Adelaide, where you can trust the bounce, you can leave from a length where you know that consistently the ball will go above your head. So on this wicket, the more short pitch deliveries is bowled to a batsman, it almost forces the batsman to play at it. You can't easily leave the ball.
Right. Brad, does that explain the comment that I made right at the start of the show that batting seemed a bit tougher in the second hour as compared to the first hour? Because probably the Australian bowlers realized that this could be the pitch where bowling short wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Well, and it's certainly going to be exciting to watch the Indian fast bowlers operate as well, because they've used their short pitch really dynamically in this series. We saw, Jasprit Bumrah's got an excellent short pitch delivery. We saw Ishant Sharma catch Travis Head off guard a couple of times. So on this particular wicket where it's pretty docile, it's going to take a lot of effort for the quicks to bang the ball in, and it's going to wear them down as well. So, it's going to be hard work. I think they'll have to put away the short pitch ball for a long period of time and try and attack those stumps with short cover, short mid-wicket positions, because it really will be taxing work for the fast bowlers. But the short ball has to be used and used well, and that drop-in wicket where there's just that invariable bounce does make it hard. We've seen Mayank get hit on the shoulder a couple of times. Hanuman got hit on the head and so forth. But it'll be testing out there. Maybe it'll even get worse as the pitch goes on into day 3, day 4.
I think it's important not to overuse the short pitch delivery. I think what the Australian bowlers did, especially in the first 1 hour, was bowl a lot of short pitch deliveries. I think the short pitch delivery should be a surprise element. The more the balls they pitch up, which catching position in short mid-wicket, short covers, and then use the short pitch delivery to surprise the batsman. And I have a short leg or just a backward short leg where you almost are forcing the batsman to play at the short pitch delivery. I think that's the way forward for the bowlers from both the sides.
Okay, fair comment that Pat Cummins seems like the most dangerous of the lot at the moment.
Yeah, it looked very similar to the way Jasprit Bumrah releases the ball. Not really wide of the crease, but the angle he creates where the ball is coming into the right-hander and invariably forcing the right-hander to play at the ball. And wherever the bounce is unpredictable, someone like Pat Cummins, someone like Bumrah or Ishant Sharma will become very, very difficult to play. So it was fantastic to see him. And I still remember the way he bowled at Ranchi when Australia toured India, consistently bowling 140 kilometers per hour and bowling in areas where the batsmen are very uncomfortable is something which Pat Cummins is very good at doing.
Okay, let's now talk about the other Indian opener in Mayank Agarwal. He's still on the crease. Brad, we spoke about his coach who was of the opinion that Mayank Agarwal would like to play like Virender Sehwag, showing you glimpses there, not quite Sehwag in the sense the amount of runs that he's got in that first session. Virender Sehwag usually would be close to 70, 80 during lunchtime, but still that aggressive intent, that's there for everyone to see.
Yeah, I don't think he's anything like Virender Sehwag, and I think actually his style is a lot different. But what he has done is to try and play the way that Mayank Agarwal knows how to play and wants to play. And the thing is in sport is that you have to stay within what you know and what you trust, and to have courage to play the way you play. And if you go and play the way you expect someone else to play, then the chances are you'll fail. So I thought he's looked outstanding at the crease. He's looked positive. He's not looking to dominate. He's just playing every ball on its merit. And when he's had an opportunity to score, he's done that and done that well. So he's also run hard between the wickets. So, yeah, there are aspects of a young cricketer which you'd expect. And I think he's been outstanding and certainly hasn't looked troubled in any situations. And, if he can push on after lunch and then through to tea, we've seen that he's got the capabilities, to push deep. He scored 300s in Ranji Trophy before. So look out. He could be the man.
Okay, plenty of questions coming in as far as the Indian openers are concerned. Brad just said, watch out for Mayank Agarwal. He could just be the man for India. Okay, let's take the first question on the Indian openers. And we've got one here from Rohan Shukla. Sedate start by India. It's a great opportunity for India to take the lead in the series after winning the toss. Should India be a little more positive in the second session?
I don't think they were subdued. It was not that they went into a shell, just looking to defend the ball. They were eating the ball and playing on its merit. I really enjoyed the way Mayank Agarwal used his feet to Nathan Lyon, and whenever the ball was there for it to be driven through the offside, it did that. So I don't think that India were subdued, but it's important not to be over positive as well. It's important to be playing with a positive mindset where the approach is to look for runs and not trying to be over aggressive and trying to create shots or manufacture shots which is not necessary. It's a 5-day game. I think it's very important to play 4 sessions, if possible 5 sessions, and once India does that, invariably they'll come close to a 400-450 mark, and that's something which should be in the mind of Virat Kohli and Team India, because as the match goes by, I think the wicket will become slower and stroke play will be difficult. There will be a little bit of uneven bounce with what I have seen in the first session. So scoring will become really important in the first innings.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of comments from viewers who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook. Prabhanjan here has got a comment. Let me take that to Brad. Whatever he's seen of the first session, he's seen a few balls stay low. Have you also seen something like that? Could this really play out as the match progresses?
Well, it could well be, yeah. That's the thing with these dropping wickets. You never know how compact they are underneath the surface. They just don't have a lot of time to bind together. So this will be, I think it'll be a really fascinating sort of day 4 and day 5 where, you'll see fielders around the bat, short mid-wicket, catching mid-wicket, people finding it hard to score. So, if India push forward and score just over 3 or 4 runs and over in the next 2 sessions, they're going to finish the day in a strong position, 260, 280. And as VVS said, push on to those bigger marks of 400, 450. And that's going to be hard to track down. Someone's going to have to bat really well for Australia. So scoring looks like it will become more difficult. Slightly up and down bounce. And with India's attack, I think that's going to trouble the Australian batsmen as time goes on.
That's a very valid question, because how many times, the character of the Australian wickets, even though they drop in wickets, has changed considerably. You go to Australia, to counter the extra bounce you get from the wicket. You saw in Perth where the ball was not bouncing on the second day itself, and you saw even today in the first session where Tim Paine himself was surprised when he gave 4 byes, and the ball didn't bounce at all. The characteristic of this Australian wickets are changing drastically.
Very different from when you used to be there. Okay, we're getting some really interesting comments. I'm going to just take 2 of those. Rise and Reach. He says, I'm at the ground right now at the MCG. He's watching us from the MCG. He says that looking at the pitch, I can say that KL Rahul and Murli could have dominated the first session the way. Funny how things change. You're talking about 2 openers out of form, but also you have to take in account the conditions on offer. Could they have been suited for?
Well, I'm not sure about KL Rahul because I think it's more to do in the mind than any technical issues. So I think a break would really help him. To regain the confidence or just regain his thoughts, because sometimes when you're playing matches after matches and if you're going through a string of low scores, it will just deflate you. Yeah. So I think a break will just allow him to think positively about the game, just think differently about the game. But Murli Vijay, as I told before the start of the game, I think this would have been ideal opportunity for him, to just regain his confidence. Someone as experienced as him, someone who's technically good and someone who was just regaining that rhythm in the second innings of Perth. Imagine him, along with Mayank Agarwal opening, and if he would have been around 30-40 not out, and go on to get a big score, the kind of confidence Team India would have from one genuine match winner is unbelievable. So definitely I think Murli Vijay for sure would be really disappointed that he didn't get an opportunity to play on this wicket.
Alright, sometimes luck also plays a part, where you're playing, what particular track you're playing on. Different pitches we saw in Perth and Adelaide, and this one is completely different. For all you know, Murli Vijay could have got runs here. Okay, I have to take this question. This is not related to the match. I'd love to talk about Nathan Lyon, but I have to take this question. VVS, this is for you.
Yep.
Nat K wants to know, it's a very deep question. VVS, who do you think is the best opening batsman from Andhra/Hyderabad? Is it you, MSK Prasad, or Hanuma Vihari? There are three players there who are forced to open.
Who asked this question?
All come from the same state, Nav K.
Nav K, good you're following Hyderabad and Andhra cricket. Really happy.
What a coincidence. You know,
Yes.
three players from the same state, as to say not same Ranji team, but same state,
Yeah.
who were forced to open.
Yeah, so I think it's difficult. For him, I think the
Who's
statistics.
the best of the opener, you think? Not you.
Yeah, I can't say about myself neither. I think it's a tough question, but none of us should have opened for India. But I think when I took the decision, you know, it was my decision, you know, and I wanted to play for India in the playing 11. There was no spot in the middle order because you had experienced players, you had class players who were established already. You know, you had Rahul Dravid, you had Azharuddin, you had Sachin Tendulkar and Sourav Ganguly. So if I had to get into the playing 11, I had to open, you know, and I always was taught growing up that you had to do a role for your team, whichever role the team wants you to do, you know. But I don't think that the same quality middle order is there in this playing 11, and that's why I feel that it's unfair on Hanuma Vihari to open. You talk about MSK Prasad open, that was in Sydney. That was the last test of
And that
series.
was also his last test of his career.
Yeah, but that was the last test of his series.
Yeah.
That was the last test of the series, and you can understand because Sadgopan Ramesh was injured. He fractured his hand. Devang Gandhi didn't play a single match on that tour. So it was almost a forced decision to have MSK Prasad, who also was looking solid in Melbourne. But I still feel that when you're talking about the bench strength, you have to have bench strength for openers. You can't have a non-regular opener or a middle order batsman opening for India, especially in Australia or conditions like in England or South Africa.
All right, Nav K, I hope you've got your answer, but yours is definitely the question of the day. Okay, keep those questions coming. Let's now talk about Nathan Lyon. He's been the star for Australia up until now, but day one of Melbourne didn't turn out the way that Nathan Lyon would have liked. Okay, let me come to Brad now. Brad, what do you make of the decision to have a spinner up in the 8th over? I was just going through some stats. This is the earliest that a spinner has bowled at the MCG.
Well, it's desperate stakes, isn't it? Really, I'm not sure whether it was, lack of faith from Tim Payne to give the Quicks an opportunity, or it was just the docile pitch of the wicket, actually. So he may have an opportunity. Nathan Lyon's been the most dominant bowler, in the series so far. So to throw his trump card to, Mayank Agarwal, who hasn't seen him before, only for a couple of overs, was fair enough. I think that if you've got an all-rounder in the side, you probably give them an opportunity with a newer ball first. But it looked like a bit of a desperate move that early on in the Test match, especially when you've got Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummings in your side.
Okay, desperate move you say, Brad. Just staying on with Nathan Lyon, what did you then make of him going around the wicket in just his third? I think it was the second or the third over that he was bowling on the day.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show that there's not a lot of offer, for a spinner on day one, which is interesting because that was the opposite in Adelaide, where it spun quite a bit first day. Perth still offered a little bit. Here in Melbourne, it just looked like, the two opening batsmen and also Pujara just had it completely covered, and they looked quite dominant. And you felt that they could have actually put even more pressure on Nathan Lyon early on in that spell. But haven't seen him for the first time. I thought they played pretty well, but it's going to be tough work for Nathan Lyon, I think, throughout this day, because it doesn't look like there's a lot of bounce, and most spinners won't bounce. So he's going to have his work cut out for him for sure.
Okay, VVS, what do you make of him going round the wicket? Did you see there was a plan there, or was it defensive?
I thought firstly, it was a positive move to get Nathan Lyon. It was not a defensive move because he's been the pick of the Australian bowlers in this series, and clearly the wicket was not conducive to fast bowling. So I think young Mayank Agarwal playing for the first time, facing Nathan Lyon for the first time, and then Hanuma Vihari also playing the second test match of this series. So someone like Nathan Lyon was probably someone Tim Payne relied on getting the wicket. Now, round the wicket was a very, very good attacking move. Except
you
that,
thought it was
attacking move.
Okay.
Except that he should not have had a fielder at deep mid wicket. Having a fielder at long on, almost forcing the batsman to play for a single through the onside, and you get the slip fielder in play. Because the angle from where he was releasing the ball, and not many balls were spinning, can get an outside edge. And he didn't alter his line as well, because even from round the wicket, if you see his line, he was bowling on the off stump, just outside the off stump, just a couple of balls, he was bowling an off and middle. So almost forcing the batsman to play on the onside, which exposes the outside edge. So I think he bowled well.
Okay.
And I agree totally with Brad. Even Nathan Lyon has to be patient on this wicket, because in Adelaide there was a rough patch in front of the right-hander, and at Perth he was getting pace off the wicket, whereas on this wicket he'll not get pace off the wicket, and he'll be waiting with patience when Mitchell Starc will create that rough in front of the right-handers, where again Nathan Lyon can bowl into that rough and trouble the Indian batsman.
What did you make of Brad's comment? Because now I'm looking at from the perspective of the Indian batsman, they could have been a little more attacking to Lyon.
No, again, it's very difficult, because whenever the ball was there to hit, like a couple of boundaries hit from Mayank Agarwal, where the ball was pitched up and it drove. It's not that they were, again, little subdued. They were playing to the merit of the ball, and Nathan Lyon was quite disciplined in the way he bowled. And it's very difficult to attack someone or take him apart in the first day of the session of the test match, first session of a test match. Probably post-T, I think they will be looking to be more proactive if they get an opportunity.
Okay, let's talk about Tim Payne as Australia captain in that first session. Brad, I'll come to you. VVS made a point at the start of our discussion, having a short leg for a fast bowler. You think that'd be a good idea that Tim can look into?
Well, yeah, especially when a couple of the batsmen were troubled by the short pitch ball. But you could see at the start of the play, the tactics of the Australians were very much to get the ball full, see if there was any swing movement, any seam movement. And the short ball tactic seems to be more in the second hour than it was in the first hour. So, yeah, that short leg probably wasn't in play, but because they were looking to swing the ball and get it pitched up. I think they're definitely going to operate with one from now on, especially if they're going to bowl more of a back over length theory. See if they can get guys hooking and pulling. Chitwas Pujara actually did hook and pull very well in his two innings that he played in Adelaide and Perth. So, yeah, he might take it on. Agarwal, again, can also play the hook and pull. So we might see that adopted in this next phase of the game. But generally, you don't get too many bat pads in the MCG just because of the slow nature of the wicket, where most batsmen have time. They can either ride the ball or play the pull shot, given just that up and down bounce might trouble them a little bit. But bat pad, I'm not sure.
Okay. We spoke about Pat Cummins looking like the most dangerous of the Australian bowlers. Hazelwood in that second spell, do you think improved as well? Few balls, it seemed like that he had the Indian batsman in trouble.
Yeah, I think the first spell of Hazelwood and Mitchell Starc, I think their plan was to pitch the ball up. In fact, the first two deliveries which Mitchell Starc bowled was almost Yorker length. So I think the success which Pat Cummins got, and also the way he was troubling the batsmen, I think the Australian fast bowlers will be changing their line and length. The line would be more wicket line instead of bowling outside the off stump, and the length would be back of length. It's not necessarily bowling short pitch deliveries, but just hitting the deck, because this is not a wicket where you release the ball, because there's not much of swing offer, neither there is pace off the wicket. So it's more about hitting the deck, but making sure that the batsman plays on the front foot. And one odd bouncer which surprises the batsman, and it will be a wicket taking option. So Hazelwood changed his tactics, changed his game plan in the second spell of his.
Okay, now you've seen 2 hours of this particular pitch. You reckon it's going to be a 5-day test match?
It may be more than 5 days. No, I think it will be definitely a 5-day test match, and I feel that the spinners from both the sides, Nathan Lyon and Ravindra Jadeja, will have a big impact in this test match as the test match progresses. I think the spinners, the way the wicket is turning out to be, there will be rough patches for both the spinners, which I'm sure they can exploit.
Okay, interesting thoughts, and let me take that to Brad. I was going through a few articles looking ahead to this test match. A local boy there, Dean Jones, he was of the opinion, have India played 2 spinners. Now, looking at the way the pitch is played out in that first couple of hours, wouldn't have been a bad idea, you reckon?
Nah, I'm not sure what Dino's talking about, actually. He's probably had too much Christmas pudding. I'm not sure whether he knows the stats, but apart from Warren, I don't think many spinners have had great success at the MCG over time. It's very rarely do you see it break up, dust and bounce and turn and get foot marks. So it's more the medium pacers who attack the stumps, which generally have more success. You know, the Bumrah, Shami, these guys in particular, I reckon, will trouble the Aussies a lot because they won't be able to score off the bad balls. So anything that's short and wide, you'll struggle to get pace off later on. And if you're challenging the top of off stump with some variable bounce, you're going to get opportunities for bowled and LBs and, you know, caught at those mid-wicket and short cover positions. I think that's where they'll trouble. I also think Jadoo might play a big part being a left-hander, something different. And, you know, the Australians over time have had more issues with left-arm orthodox than right-arm orthodox. So as good as Ashwin is, Jadoo might just be something different later on down the track, which they've got to deal with.
All right, Brad, thanks so much for your thoughts. Not too much of love lost between the two Victorians. I guess it's Christmas time. There's banter also in the air. But thanks so much for joining us. Brad Hodge, VVS Laxman. You were watching ESPNcricinfo Match Day, brought to you by Maruti Suzuki. We'll see you at tea time.